The US military has a very famous saying, crap rolls downhill. Now, stick with me in this video because you'll know what I mean by crap rolls downhill, and that is the very clean way of saying things from the US military perspective. So in this news story headline, you can see intel leaks will never happen again, vows the top National Guard officer. So that is a very bold statement, but it is a statement that needs to be made. If you guys are not aware what happened about a month ago, we had one of the biggest leaks in US military history within recent years. I mean, we're talking leaking the counteroffensive from the Ukrainian side, essentially bashing some components of Ukraine, saying that they're not that good at certain aspects of warfare, that the United States military was spying on other NATO countries. Now, that part was not even the most embarrassing point of this whole story. It was the fact that a very low-ranking Jack Teixeira, National Guard airman, was able to find out all of this information, leak it, but he did it through Discord, which is not a good thing. So obviously the public was highly confused as to how such a low-ranking guardsman was able to access all of this information, leak it on Discord, almost gets away with it, but then does a lot of damage to the reputation of the United States military, and pretty much everyone as a whole. Now, what's even more crazy about this news story is that upon investigating Jack Teixeira and his unit in Massachusetts, it turns out they sort of knew what was going on, and Jack Teixeira had actually gotten in trouble before for overstepping his scope of work. Let me explain. Now, of course, there's already a Wikipedia on Jack Teixeira because he will go down in military history and U.S. history as being a leak to the U.S. government and U.S. military. Some people are calling him a whistleblower, but that's probably about 1% out of 99% of people ever talking about this. So with Jack Teixeira, he happened to have had a job where he will be very trusted. Now, Jack Teixeira's job was a cyber transport specialist, and essentially he was trusted in setting up, maintaining, and assessing physical networks in any component of the U.S. military. Wherever they want to set up a network, Jack Teixeira would be able to do that, but also assess how safe it is to do that. So regardless if he's a low-ranking airman or a high-ranking airman, you are going to be given a security clearance, and there's going to be some trust there that you're not going to try hacking into or going into boundaries you're not supposed to be looking into. Your only job is to set up the network, not to see exactly what's inside of this network. Now, the big question was, how did Jack Teixeira have access to all of these quote-unquote classified documents? Essentially, there was a database that had a ton of information, military operations within the United States, military operations outside of the United States, not even only military operations, but other government agencies. And if you had access to this database, you could essentially see anything you want to see. And of course, Jack Teixeira had a security clearance, and he somehow had access to this database, so of course he could see everything that was going on within the database. Now, when it comes to the classification of classified documents, to the regular person or somebody who watches a lot of movies, classified documents sounds like a top secret, super secret thing, but sometimes a classified document could merely be someone's social security number, birth date, and where they live. So just know that Jack Teixeira actually went out of his way to find highly regarded top classified documents. Now remember, I had mentioned crap rolls downhill, because what's really interesting about Jack Teixeira taking classified documents or essentially stealing classified documents, he has actually been caught taking notes from his unit about these classified documents. And the issue is, why was nothing done about this? Why was he not initially, your security clearance is done, you're fired, get out of here? No, he was just kind of, don't do that again. Also in this news story, they are looking very closely at the chain of command who was responsible for overseeing Teixeira's work. Again, crap rolls downhill. When Teixeira gets in trouble, everyone gets in trouble, and it keeps going up and up and up and up, and then all the way back down to where Teixeira is now being charged under the Espionage Act. If Teixeira is found completely guilty, it says here, Teixeira could face up to 15 years in prison if found guilty. But federal officials have indicated they may file additional charges against the guardsman in coming months. Something else I want to note within Teixeira's unit, because again, crap rolls downhill, his immediate supervisors were actually fired as well. So that was obviously the initial, hey, if Teixeira can't do his job, you obviously can't do your job, so you're all fired. Now, from the outside perspective, you're probably like, well, that's kind of harsh because Teixeira was acting independently. But again, as the court documents say, he was actually found already doing this before and nothing was done. So we can't let that happen again. But I will say, as a former soldier, there are times where punishments can be rather harsh. In this case, completely understand you can't be leaking classified documents, but there will be times where like a private forgets to screw in like the Humvee door handle, and then his sergeant gets fired because they've been wanting to fire that sergeant for a long time. Now, I don't want to get into speculation in this particular story because this is a rather big deal, and it looks to me that the evidence is there that, hey, since he was already caught trying to take notes of classified documents, and again, he has been caught before, the person who caught him, they need to be taken out. You need to be fired. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. You weren't doing your job. As far as what exactly is the National Guard, or really the military, going to do in general in trying to stop leaks, this actually doesn't happen that much. If you've noticed, when is the last time you can remember there were like all of these big leaks that happened? So for the most part, the US military is actually really good at stopping leaks and making sure the right people are seeing the right things. It just so happens in this case, somebody acted out on their own because they wanted to look cool on Discord. Now, we weren't given official and actual details on what exactly the US military was going to do to prevent more leaks, or I guess prevent more lower enlisted personnel looking into classified documents. Because if they did do that, I think they would just essentially exploit themselves, and then it'd be really easy to find out a way to get around whatever they're trying to implement in accessing classified documents. So that's essentially the news story. What I see here is damage control. Nothing new here. The US military had to say something because, again, it was really confusing to the public how such a low-ranking airman was able to access all of these classified documents. But if you ask me, I mean, even as a combat engineer, I was lower enlisted. There were times where we were trusted with a lot of valuable information. And not only myself, a lot of people who go on deployments, anyone who goes into the radio tent or knows the special radio codes that nobody can steal or try to encrypt, that is classified information, and you are trusted with highly regarded classified information. So this is nothing new. Again, I want to say this. When was the last time we actually heard of massive leaks besides Edward Snowden, which in my mind, or in my comparison, is the only closest comparison? But again, the US military is actually rather decent at not leaking their own information, whether it's on purpose or not on purpose. This right here seems to be a special case. And again, even the National Guard said, look, this does not reflect the entire intelligence agency. This was just him. Not the whole US military, it was just him. But we will fix the problem at hand. Because again, remember, crap rolls downhill.